So this is going to be a riffy kind of a video on overcoming depression. And by that I mean overcoming depression again and again and again. Because it comes in waves a lot of times. It's not like, I would say as a whole, I conquered suicidal depression, and I don't think I'm ever going to get to that point again. But I think it's important to, as we talk about overcoming depression, that we talk about it's not just like you overcome it and then you're good forever. It's an ongoing. I wouldn't say it's a struggle. It's a struggle. It is ongoing, but it's more like ongoing in the way that you maintain your mental health in the same way that you maintain your car. So you got to take it into the shop and you got to make sure the oil's all good and you got to fill it up with gas and you got to wash it. So you take care of your mental health like that rather than it being just something you're one and done with, like you go through a round of therapy and then you're good with depression for forever. I think what therapy gave me at least is a variety of tips and tricks to deal with my emotions, kind of like emotional jujitsu, where okay, so the negative emotions are always going to be there, right? You're always going to have sadness and anger, but what therapy gives you is a way to deal with those in a way that keeps you moving forward and allows you to maintain a sense of like hope and gratitude through that. So I think when you're looking at like where you want to be with your life, what your goals are, that it shouldn't be to, oh, I never want to have any negative emotions. You could instead go for, I want a life of fulfillment. I want a life that's full of things I love, not necessarily to be happy all the time. You're not going to be happy all the time. There's going to be sadness. There's going to be fear. There's going to be doubt. But what you can aim for is an undercurrent of peace and fulfillment. So in the same way that you might, if you've ever been depressed, it can feel like sometimes you're happy in the moment. Maybe you're playing a video game, like you can play video games all day, and you feel happy. But if someone asks you, like, how are you really? You're deeply sad. So even though there's that surface happiness, on a deeper level, you're sad. In the same way, I think, when you reach a point of peace in your life, you might feel sad on the surface, but you're deeply happy. So that's kind of the level that I personally aspire to, I can say. That's one of the things I would define as achieving success in life, is just having an undercurrent of fulfillment rather than an undercurrent of just. There's that Thoreau quote about most men living lives of quiet desperation. And I feel like that does seem to be something you see a lot, is people live lives of quiet desperation. And I think one of the reasons that, if you're one of my viewers, I imagine you're an artist, why we go towards art, because we don't want to be those people living lives of quiet desperation. That's why we're pursuing art, because if we don't pursue art, there's going to be a voice in our head always that regrets not pursuing it. Even if we're successful by every other measure, we're always going to be like, if we're on our deathbed, at 100 years old, and you have that thought, I could have been an artist. I could have gone after it. And again, that's not to say that being an artist is not going to bring its fair share of turmoil and pain and stress, but it's a different kind of stress, because when you're stressing over something you care about, you're okay with it. And you regret not pursuing it a lot more than you will. You'll regret not pursuing it a lot more than you will pursuing it and having some hardship along the way. Like, of course there's going to be hardship. It's just a matter of choosing your sacrifice. You can either choose to... Either way there's going to be pain. It's just a matter of choosing one that's meaningful to you. So if art's really meaningful to you, you're going to be able to take a lot more... You're going to be willing to make those sacrifices for it. And so even though there's going to be pain and hardship and all that, there's going to be pain and hardship no matter what you do, so you might as well do the thing you care about. One book I do want to mention is a book I've procured rather recently, which is David D. Burns' Feeling Great. You see the David D. Burns Feeling Great. This is primarily to me, it's a really great summary of cognitive distortions. So if you're going through depression, a lot of times you'll have thoughts like, I'm not good enough, things will never get better, I'll never feel good, nobody likes me. And I would say I'm doing really well with my depression, but you can call it my depression, I don't know. Sometimes I go back and forth whether I want to call it my depression or just, a sense of depression or a sense of feeling down. I'm going to take this off, I'm getting hot. But anyway, okay, so the idea with feeling great is that you're breaking down those thoughts, those beliefs that I'm not good enough. That's a belief, and it's not necessarily reality. Now, sometimes you'll have a belief that is a reflection of reality, and that's okay. But you want to separate between what's a myth that you've constructed in your head, something that's not true that you deeply believe and that feels real, and what's the truth. So one really good thing I like to do whenever I'm feeling depressed is, I like to get some sort of exercise. I wrote down my favorite things to do: journaling, exercise, just watching something you love. Just watch a funny show that interrupts your negative thoughts. Now, don't get too carried away with that, because one other thing that can happen with depression is all of a sudden you just start playing 12 hours of video games a day, and you never actually address the negative emotions, and so you just stay in that cycle of distract, and never actually address the issues underlying that behavior. And so I'd say as long as you're using it as an escape for, an hour or two, that's fine. But then if it becomes more than that, if you start just becoming like addicted to it, to whatever your distraction is, then you might want to watch out for that and try one of these other techniques. So that would be journaling, exercising. Another one would be reconnecting with your childhood. I find a lot of times when I'm depressed, it's because I've lost my sense of purpose. And it's like, why am I drawing? What's the point? Why bother? I'm working so hard on a daily basis to get better and improve and work towards something, but you forget what that something is. And so journaling can actually be a way to find out, to rediscover your sense of purpose. But a lot of times you can find it by, for example, right, I just reread the Naruto series because Naruto is the first anime I watched, and that was when I realized, whoa, drawing can tell stories, and it can move people, and it can inspire people. So when I'm feeling down and depressed, I like to revisit those series that got me into art in the first place. And I'm like, okay, this is why I started. And you get the same feelings, and you get re-inspired, and you're like, oh, I want to do this for other people. So reconnecting with your childhood is very important. And even if you can put yourself in the mindset of a child and just make yourself bored, put away your phone, put away, all the distractions, and just get a couple of socks and make a puppet show, put on a puppet show or something, or build a fort out of blankets, something like that, something really silly that you never do as an adult because it's weird, or because, as an adult you're supposed to just watch Netflix when you have some free time instead of doing something creative. So it's okay to just give yourself permission to be silly and get out some dolls and play with them, or put on a little skit or something like that, and just be silly and get out of the consumption mindset of just like feeding information into your brain, and try to do something creative, and that can help. And then reaching out to loved ones is really important. A lot of times when you're depressed, you want to isolate, and you, at least personally, me, I'm not sure if everyone's like this, it might be an introvert thing, but for me, when I feel depressed, I want to be in my room, and I don't want to talk to anybody, and I don't want to look at my texts, I don't want to do anything, I don't want to be in contact with anybody. But one of the best things to pull yourself out of depression is going out and seeing your friends and talking to them on the phone, and talking with your family members about, like, hey, I'm going through a hard time, I just need to talk about what I'm going through. And it's just as good as journaling, the ability to, in fact, journaling I kind of think of as a conversation when you don't have anyone to talk with, it's like journaling allows you to put your thoughts onto the page, put your thoughts and feelings onto paper and get them out of your head so that you're not living within your emotions. You're putting your emotions outside of your head so you can look at them and see like, I don't know if I believe that now that I see it on paper. It's like, does everybody really hate me? No, not everybody hates me. And if they did and they're not telling me, then why would I want to be friends with them anyway? Okay, so a lot of times we can't see how silly our thoughts are, or we can't see how warped our thinking is because we're within it. But if you can do anything, whether that's talking with someone else or writing your thoughts down, it allows you to get a third person view of it. It's like you zoom the camera out and you can see what exactly you're dealing with. And then from those steps, you can begin to say, okay, I've identified the problem, I've identified the thinking that has led me to believe that I'm depressed, and now you come up with 3 next steps. So just little tiny things that you can do right now to improve your life and get yourself going again. Because you really want to get to the place where you feel hope again. Because depression is, at least the way it manifests for me, is it's a loss of hope. It's like I don't know what I'm working towards. I don't know my purpose. So you want to rekindle that hope. So however you can get that hope back is going to be, well, you'll find your way. You'll try different methods and see what works for you, and you'll figure out what works for you. And the more you do it, the better, the easier it gets. And it keeps happening. It definitely, the negative emotions will come. You just get better at dealing with them. And so, I mean, the worst thing I heard when I was in therapy and dealing with depression is people would tell me it's like a lifelong thing, and it's malfunction in your brain, and you're gonna have it for life, and all you can do is manage the symptoms. And that's just such bullshit, because the fact of the matter is, when your life isn't the way you want it, when your life is chaos, when you're not happy with your life, you're not going to be happy. And of course you're going to be depressed. But if you change your circumstances, you can be happy. Is there a small percentage of the population that actually has some sort of malfunction with the brain that doesn't produce serotonin, and therefore they can't feel happiness, and so they're depressed? Like, I'm sure maybe some small percent, but is it anywhere near the degree of people that are diagnosed with depression and then given medication? I doubt it. I think most people just are in jobs that they hate, and they don't like their lives, and they've got like a ton of stress and a ton of anxiety. So I would say look at the ways your life could be better, and then start making small changes to bring your life closer to that vision of a better life. And I would be surprised if your depression is as devastating as it is now if you begin to take your life in a more positive direction and make changes, significant changes to your life, and engineer a life that you're happier with. I think as you begin to change your life, you'll feel better. I don't think that depression is a lifelong sentence, and I think it's something you can get through. That being said, I'm not a professional, so consult a professional, a qualified therapist, betterhelp.com, and listen to Jordan Peterson. Jordan Peterson's a really good person to listen to about depression and the ways you can start fixing your life. But anyway, I'm going to wrap it up here. Thanks for listening if you listened, and have a great day. Bye.